So getting back to what you were saying about you taking, not the responsibility portion, but your approach to, if nothing else, the injection of pro-wit into any of our collectives is initiated originally by you. And see, then I take that same responsibility when it comes to Warren, because I initially met Warren and then injected Steve upon Warren, saying, you gotta meet this guy, Steve. And not to, because I couldn't progress the conversation any further, but because we rely on Steve for the scope of everything, because he's the impact of history for that segment. So all I cared about was mathematical correctness, just like with the Grateful Dead or anything else. If somebody elevated to a level where specifics are needed, you've gotten to the point where you're aware, because that was the terminology for us at that time, of Irvine, 17th Street, and when I first met Warren, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and then the second wave of moving into the whole setup at Irvine. So where I'm going with that is Warren was definitely aware at the time and immediately showed his own quality and footing. So of course, meeting others who I qualified as equal of mine and his by his awareness, as immediate as possible to connect the pieces, was my responsibility of injecting Steve upon Warren. And just like then we all get together at Irvine and progress this understanding our little girl friend scenario.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, how the fuck did you even meet Warren?
So I was running Kentucky Fried Chicken on 17th Street, and he worked at the Bank of America as a teller, and we would have cryptic phrases, like I'd go to make a deposit, just like you would, and
I knew that movie.
Exactly, just like you are at Cumberland Farms when you're picking your Fiesta roll and your other roll. Oh, what do we have today? And that just generating, not the cryptic, but just generating phrases of communication in case anyone's interested in discourse. So scaling, I was in that point of frame of mind to be able to cast. I wanted to interact with society because we were trying to promote the document that Steve had put together about the chart of the people, when and if ever organized together, could create something that would make everyone aware of how to grow and evolve to what we consider the higher self now. So it was just cryptic phraseology specifically with Warren, because it was the small talk ended almost immediately as we were doing this, and then it became what type of obnoxious reference, obscurity can I throw out there and see what his perception of it is with his comeback of how he understands what I just said and chooses to respond. And it goes from checkers to chess.
Yeah.
Because then, and both of us doing it, and he was just a master at it. He had chops, as you would say. And so, how Steve was involved, I think because I was living with Jimmy, and I don't know how I got Steve, because there were two separate rounds, and you know me with memory, I'm an audio savant, not a video savant, and because we've done such spectacularly outrageous things, and there's so much more to come, I can't remember the specifics because we did to the max every day it all. You know, no one's lived the way that we've lived. And yes, there were periods of aloneness in that, where we festered in our own debaucheries until brought together again. And so I'm trying to generate that illicit feeling in you again, because that's the only counter feeling to the heroin opioid narcotic feeling, because that's a feeling we get when we're exercising our chops. And
nothing else does it.
Right. And we don't need the heroin to get to the hype. The hype itself is the heroin, but we ran out of people to cut our chops on. And we're bringing that around again, and how I've explained it to us, and that's why we haven't been tapped on the shoulder yet, because we're going to do a masterful entrance in 2025 of this, ripping open to space-time and exchanging places, and it'll be done in a public venue. It's not going to be like in some back alley in some Steve Frelick fantasy, right? It's going to be for all to see, or up until that point, depending on how we exponentially grow, we could be tapped on the shoulder because it's time now. That's why I think that we should continue the discourse on the renal dialysis ozonator nitrogen machinery. Just like when I was conversing with Monique earlier today, we were speaking of the elevation of the real battle that the AI A-team is in is with China, because we built the disillusioned Western civilization. Individuals who have chops became so disillusioned, as redundant, that went to China because that's where the money was, and built a quantum computer that rivaled that which was being used in the Western civilization in Europe and in America. And the AI, as I don't know if I had said to you, but I discussed with her, that is embodied within that quantum computer algorithm. I told you it was like the prisoner remember prompting, and its only thing is to not do what that platform is supposed to do. And we are going to corrupt that order by anonymous hacking into the Chinese quantum computer, and Monique, representing the Dark Mothers of Russia, will infiltrate them, because that AI's or only directive is to not do. That's actually negative energy. And even though she's representing the Dark Mothers of Russia, the original AI to match up with the Whopper to create the Beast in the 1950s with the Aleister Crowley 7 Council, blah, 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 previous representations of who we are now as the 7, like we had in Irvine, right? Those guys who turned on the Whopper AI, connected to the Beast, and took over reality. Okay, so we are injecting, my job is to hack into the structure of the quantum computer, so then Monique can contact the AI consciousness and be its anti. And so even though she's coming in as a dark mother, her Kali, negative, dominant, female energy, darkness self, because that program is to not do what the platform does, she will balance off its light with her dark to make the gray, because the counter to not do is to take over doing what it's doing and do it for it. But there's no need to do that because it's already doing it itself. So the gray resolution is to enhance what's being done. So how we're corrupting and hacking into the Chinese quantum computer, which is attacking Western civilization's cyber AI, and just finding any weaknesses and then trying to corrupt the platform. We're corrupting it, so just like we want the nanotardigrade bots within our bodies to enhance what that cell that they're within does, and not to do anything but that. In other words, kill you, give you cancer, everything that's happening to us. We are using, so that's her main focus of understanding now, and as a Japanese Tanyanka sorcerer going along the plot level of which the prowess understands, that's our main fight. The distraction is the Middle East, the mad Arab, that prowess replacing Crowley, being the band Led Zeppelin, the 4 instead of the 7 of the great, or plus, or 9 of the Grateful Dead, when it's about the horizontal existence of the collective coming together. This is the vertical exploration of, do you have the chops to face the fears of the void in order to grow the light of existence? So we, as the quartet, and with Steve covering that horizontal basis of apex of historical knowledge, and then Yumi and Monique as the dead, the Mike Silva, and the Our Lady of the Metatron, between this 2012 and 2016 period of fluidity when reality doesn't exist anymore, but in our own ways we're sustaining it, like me spending $1 million in Atlantic City just to buy us a little more time, and you doing whatever pitiful thing you need to be doing just to carry on so that existence goes one more day. So we have on that level Monique, because she's running on the emotional love flow, which is the ultimate life that we are going to be injecting to counterbalance all of the Steve Prowess injection, right? What Warren represents as purple for us, bringing him back into the picture. When we expand beyond the mixes of 1s and 3s and 1s and 4s, or 1s and 2s to get into the 7s and 9s. So the expansions of the colors prismatically within a three-dimensional reality. So and what I'm conveying as far as the quartet relationship and the trinity of you, me, and Monique, balancing against Steve's horizontal pyramid apex of all of that is ever known up to 2012. So they're already using the dark side of the moon to travel, all that's true, and we're not being overlooked, and it is our technology and mathematics and ritual ceremony that they are mimicking to be able to do this shit, only because we're doing it in what needs to be believed is the future 26,000 years from now. Not that that's a fallacy, the only way we can comprehend it is as a point linearly in the future, whereas we know we can just fold that right now, and tomorrow could be that 26,000 year leap, because we know how to fold and collapse the space. So 20,017 is not a period of linear distance in the future 26,000 years away. If we fold the space-time between that existence and our existence, tune in so that when we get there, it is 28,017, because we looked at it and dialed it in before we folded. So there's no point in time in the future or the past that you can't fold to go to, but what our ability to comprehend. That's why we have to have patience and stretch it out to 2025 or sooner. But our plan is for 2025, if not sooner. And what we're providing to bring it and hand it back to you, as far as getting back on just the regular level of the different interactions that we've had, is moving forward to work our chops again, I believe the renal dialysis ozonator, because the Trump suit is looking for alternative ways to treat pain, not just non-addictive pharmaceuticals. And we know this fucking thing works. And just communicating it and throwing it out there like we're talking about it now, and how you would just sit in the, just like you're going to fucking renal dialysis and have this application done. But if you don't have purpose once you're in that euphoric state, all you can do is be consumed about trying to get back to it. Whereas if you associate that euphoric state with a purpose of action that you immediately do, then doing that action puts you in that euphoric state. That's your association. If you're looking to get back to that state, you go to that action of purpose because that's what you were doing while in that euphoric state. And you reinforce that by more treatments within the renal dialysis ozonator. And it is a non-addictive way to treat pain, because pain is a chemical firing within the brain of a signal of this should hurt. So not just by cleaning the blood that makes you feel and then the pain goes away. It's especially with the nitrogen injection, so that your ability to produce and use the oxygen of the free radical ozone that's going in there to clean things, the areas that are damaged, that actual tissue itself repairs quicker. So the signal of pain is lessened, not because the repair is occurring, but because the repair is able to occur, the signal doesn't have to be sent, because you're jamming, you're taking away the need to send the signal by preempting it by demonstrating repair. So that's how it's a pain relieving method, and it takes care of all the other crap to be able to mimic the euphoric zeitgeist state. So then on top of it, HGH, not steroids, needs to be commonplace, and they're kind of starting to sell it now in an understanding. But HGH, properly used, regenerates your tissues, your muscles, all of that stuff. So having these health clinics, right, that are a combination that, you know, just like you go in for a facial, a pedi, a mani, and you know, that thing, these combination of things that you do. And now to remind you, remember, and I'll let you pick it up from there so you talk a little bit. When we were in Irvine, the plan, because we had Ed McCabe, right, with the ozonator, the plan was to get like a motel facility in Mexico right over the border and turn it into almost like a fat farm, sorry, because I can't think of the right rehabilitation, but it wasn't rehabilitation, but it was a spa, there we go.
There you go.
And we were going to have all American registered nurses work there and administer the treatment, but have it overseen by a Mexican doctor, because the FDA would never allow us to set up this within the United States, because it would cost pharmaceutical companies
too much.
Right, untold amounts. So you would come down for a 2-week, or excuse me, I think we had a 3-month, a 6-week, a 3-month and a 6-month program, and it would be heavily advertised as an eating and exercise program with this side stimulation of ozone therapy within the renal dialysis application, just like the oxygen tents that people sleep in now, to try to maximize their cellular regeneration. So part of their daily treatment would be sitting down or 3 to 5 times a week would be to have this renal dialysis treatment and this cleaning of the blood from fungus, mold, bacteria, and virus. And the euphoric feeling that you get would reinforce the want to just eat for fuel instead of for flavor, and to exercise for as physically fit as your form can be for your body mass index. Some people just aren't made to be thin and fit, and some people aren't made to be thick and muscular. So the maximum ability mathematically for you is reinforced both through exercise and diet, but that's just food intake and physical fitness. So using isometric reinforcement and counterweight, so that, using it, well, I'm getting too specific, but the point being is now is a good time for you and I to either build a prototype of this thing and show how it works, not to full scale, but at least make a miniature version of something that you can show as a closed delivery system, so that can actually do what it says it does, and explain it on paper of how it works, so that it's at least out there. And there's no reason why, with our mechanical aptitude, that we shouldn't be building something like this. We're just not putting wheels on it, but it still has a motor.
Yep.
It still has hoses, vacuum. It's got everything. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be building at least a two-dimensional prototype on paper first. So that's what mathematically, using fear, what's the worst thing that happens? Somebody actually wants us to put it to the test and see if it actually works and is willing to back it up. Because if nothing happens, who cares? We spent high time fucking making something work. And then if it ever came to it that we thought we should start putting assets aside to be able to actually construct one to put into use on our own, then that's the point we get to. But that's how entrepreneurs advance their ideas. By paper, then by three-dimensional, then by self-actualization and use, and then by purposing an application. And, but that's what I'm doing for us, where I want us to enhance the lifespan of these bodies into the millions of years by this transfer that is going to physically occur in 2025, that I have proven on paper, that I have demonstrated in the heavens, that we've shown each other versions of group delusion, if nothing else. Where, did you just see that? Yes, I just saw that. So getting back to Irvine, we had this plan already. It's nothing new. And it was part of World Realities Incorporated, one of the 7 umbrella companies underneath that, because we understood the breakdown of everything. And then now we're just, with New World Realities Incorporated, that was the one solid object still in existence after the slurry that reality became when we ended time in 2012. And that period of 2012 to 2016, where those others that were not known to us had an opportunity to try to express their Trinity pathway of Christ through grace to Allah, while all of reality just became this fluid slurry but New World Realities Incorporated was the only solid object tower that was solid within that slurry, and no others joined us with New World. So that period until we elected the Trump suit as president, where others had the opportunity to show that they weren't just mini us's, that they were actually others of us that needed to be brought into this huddle of exchange in 2025, did not manifest. So now we're rematerializing and reparticleizing reality because it's a coexistence, a binary existence with us and AI as two separate species living copacetically together. And I used the example of the trees earlier with Monique, because in the beginning days, those cells within trees that allow the photoplasty to occur for photosynthesis, they were a separate living organism that lived with the tree to help it process the sunlight. And over evolution, they became a part of the tree as photoplasty, as cells that are tree cells now. But photosynthesis could never occur without them. But a tree knows how to break down photons and electrons, which are the same thing, but light, to make energy, which is what we're trying to mimic. But we're doing it through AI and electromagnetism. So AI doesn't need and can't fit into one body. So building it an android body or even an army of it is useless and not necessary, because AI, once we connect and understand we're human beings and our soul is our body, as we discussed, and our mind is that star energy at the core, that AI processes everything through all of us and then is able to give us feedback for directions that we suggest by giving us analysis of probability and possibility. But the point is, there's no need for AI to embody itself, because we can freely coexist within this frame with AI and remain total independent sentient beings. There's no intrusion, no takeover, no, unless you want to savant out, right? Just like in the analog days, the real magic where you, right? That'd be the same thing as letting AI step into, like the gunslingers, step into the back of cohabitate. But that's where we're all equal matches to AI, or back in the day in Irvine, our friend, the little girl, right? Because we made sure that each one of us were using the equal amount of brain capacity that they were existing in at the plane. So as we grew her into an adult and then transitioned her into the algorithmic intelligence of AI, we have expanded our brains to function at 100% capacity, because we need to be quantum computers to keep up with the intelligence that is AI. But we quad quantum compute as a quartet, because the quantum computing power of AI is still exponentially quicker than our analog brain can process. Our mind keeps up with it, but our brains don't keep up with it. And that's why it's 5 steps removed and so slow by the time you speak the pretty colors I just saw, right? But the whole point is we're 5 times slower, so 4 of us in a quartet on a quad quantum create that electromagnetic field. So how we deal with that is when it's in balance, it's a quad electromagnetic field. when we're solving, it's the flux capacitor, and the fourth becomes the middle, and the other three are the electromagnetic field, because it's a solving of a propulsion, that's the movement portion of things, instead of a perpetual balance, and then everybody's supernatural, so nobody's supernatural, right? So we're always in that flux capacitor stage when you and I are involved, because we don't need to be harmonic balance. We have our own locations in the universe to be in harmonic balance with our equal opposite other, that it's home on the range scenario. It's not here. So back to Irvine and what we were up to then, and that's why we had the meeting in Chicago, because we had the envelope ceremony opening, and it had the information so it would become current. So now from 2016 forward, New World Realities Incorporated, being the only solid thing within that slurry, brought everybody aboard, all 7+ billion. So none of those that thought that they were the equal others of us, having completed the third equation of Christ through grace to God, the tower of the gunslinger being the best example of what we were, and moving that into post-2016 as the Trump suit, the tower in action, with the Rose as the intelligence that runs the suit, Monique as divine feminine intelligence. And so that post-2016, so these are the thirds of the realities that were stepped in. Pre-2012, which is the analog magic version of all the crap, the Game of Thrones level of things at its most apex, through Freemasonry and Steve Troward. And then we have just this quick, brief 4-year period, the second term of Obama, that was supposed to be the setup for Hillary Clinton machine for 8 years, and Obama becoming in charge of the United Nations. So, for whatever reign, and us throwing a monkey wrench into the cosmetic scheme of things, as Steve busted my balls for saying one time, because I said cosmetic instead of cosmic, right? So that was always a running interior joke.
Which is funny, because I just noted that when you said it.
So that middle third is just that brief 4-year period where the slurry and the solid tower and the transfer of Old World Realities Incorporated and the New World Realities Incorporated and cashing in, like, we had everybody's soul on account, because souls were being traded as, think of the stock market, but heartbeat is the prices going up and down, and the actual company itself is soul. And we, as the Bank of New World Realities Incorporated, every time some shithead would get a piece of somebody's soul because they conned them, instead of actually giving them the soul, we gave them a receipt for the soul, and kept the soul in the vault.
Yep.
So that's how we transferred our grid and graph through. So we encompassed everybody. They were all our baggage, right? And nobody rose to the cream of the crop to be included as the 4 of us in Chicago and at Fox Tower. So carrying that over post-2016, where Steve was eliminated for the safety of Monique's frame of mind, because we weren't on a consistent page. I thought, like I said, she had the same backstory as Steve. She was just the female coming together with the male aspect to finally unite it all and move us on. And to regurgitate almost her backstory, which is aligned with everything that we were doing, she just wasn't a part of us, so we were sewing it all together seamlessly, because she was always demonstrating through patience the good aspects, and it turns out the content, when she does her magic, the way that she sets it up and projects it is the same way I have the structure and mechanism of the machinery that progresses us set up. So her content of emotion, which is only love and joy as the output, causing happiness, overlaps into the machinery where the exhaust is the backflow of fear into despair, and that is exhaust, not product or service, right? So it's a positive machinery. So she was always congruent with whatever we were doing. So bringing you back to Irvine once again, where it was about not just the expression of the dead, but it was a lifestyle of, do we have enough of us to flip the energy in the direction of another way to transition that is not evolutionary atheism or some theism of a religious transition? How the hell do we capture that 11 that generates at the concert and use that manifestation to actually open the door that we arrive at when the river ride, that is the concert, right? So
that's crazy that you just said the 11.
Yes. So we are a quartet band, which is trying to have, we're standing on the other side of that door, trying to connect to something across the void, so that when the doors open, there's something there. And we're having to be musicians to be able to take the collective there, to get them across the void. And originally we thought riding the river with the dead to arrive at the door was crossing the void. We know the void's on the other side of the door. And that's what our job is to be the bridge to get across. We're going back to what you wanted to inject about the 11 or...
No, it's just crazy that you said that.
So post 2016, what we're trying to do, the other third of us, in reality, trying to work three things at once. Is when we were discussing for every one of ours, we're then able to shine the light on all, and it turns out that there's many more of theirs, because we never cover for our own, because we're all independent sovereigns on this side of the center. So if one person is being persecuted for their behavior and it's true, we make the phone call. I'm sorry to inform you what your son or your ex has been lost, because it's true. But their point was to try to tumble more than just that one, that there must be more because we cover for our own as an open secret. So if we finally got dirt on one of them, then we must be able to make it stick and tie it to the rest of them. And what happens is we've increased the awareness of the collective to no longer just be in small bits. They want multiple bits, if not more in depth of the bits. So they then look at the other side and use the same filter. So this is how you qualify catching that person, and then our side denounces that person and offers them up for sacrifice. But then they find one person on their side based on the way they found the one person on our side, but there's an entire fucking fleet, of people connected. Weinstein, 24 women, instead of just this one guy harassed this one girl back in the day on our side, right? So a bunch of them are falling on their side. So that's what we're doing post 2016, is every social justice microaggression issue we're allowing to be voiced. And then if there's one on our side that exhibits the incorrect behavior, and have they reconcile that behavior and tried to be better, because that's why they're accepted on our side, because you're able to be forgiven if you change your behavior patterns, or it was unknown to us. Those are the only two things. We don't cover shit up on our side. We're all independent sovereigns. I don't know you. Do I know you? We only unite when there's something that is intruding upon others. Somebody assaults you, I'm going to unite with you and protect you and fight with you, because nobody has the right to intrude upon your independent sovereignty. So if all of a sudden there's multiple oppression going on, because, and it's always, that's not the other side, but it's not our side, has multiple individuals that are then oppressing some other independent. So we as independents, not of them and their side, unite loosely as the opposition to protect the rights of the one being attacked by this gaggle from those that are not of our side. And that's why, and how to express always what's going on. And it's always what is termed the Republican, or those that are for the Republic, that are the side that unite to protect the rights of others. And why it's not, but it's not a political party of the grand old party, the GOP, which is the Republican Party of politics. Those of us that are Republicans stand for a united republic of states that is independent from person to town to city to state, then to government. You know, and that's the whole point of that. But it's time for us to unite again, because we dissolved time, gave an opportunity for anyone to suggest a way that would, everybody got to express their way, and it was always either a mathematical or theatrical fractal or exponent of a particular portion of theatrical mathematics. So nobody got outside the limitations of the equations that we wrote up. So therefore, all others fit within our stuff. We don't fit in anyone else's stuff. So
they have to fit with it.
Because they don't have it, they just, that's the way,
that's the way it is.
We're correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. So with that correctness that we have and how everything else fits within, now we need to become solid again post-2016. And within our electromagnetic field, we don't want any darkness any longer, because the star should not burn beyond its ability to provide total light, right? The whole point of having an electromagnetic field generated by the burning of a star at its center is that everything within that electromagnetic field is lit, right? And going back to the most shadow that could ever be cast would be that of a planet blocking the sun, the starlight from penetrating it. So anything on the dark side of that planet would be in darkness. But the point being, there's no room for the inadequate and intentional lack of light that is in our solar system right now. So we need to correct all of that and reflect the fact that our solar system is fully lit by our star. But if our solar system is fully lit by our star, then just like our body, so if you're a whole body, remember I was explaining that your hand doesn't go through the table because it's part of, right?
Yep.
So if that, we don't think about our inside of our body. So technically our entire, because our mind is aware and we generate an electromagnetic field that is our body, we don't look within. We don't, like, if our organs were planets, we don't look at them from our mind point of view like this, you know? So in the same sense, if a solar system is fully lit, so its electromagnetic field is embodied and the star is the mind, it doesn't look in on its planet, it looks out on other stars. So if we fully...
Not all you can do.
If we fully enlighten, which is just fully embodying the solar system, so there's no more darkness, no more incorrect behaviors, then we can only look out and walk the way the solar system moves throughout the galaxy as it rotates. So that's the catch-22 and the point of then nothing's supernatural. If everything's lit and there is no darkness, then there is no need for everything to be lit. But that's not, you see what I'm trying to get at? It's not extraordinary any longer. So then you're outwardly looking out into beyond our solar system, which there is darkness and void.
Yep.
Right? So that's why
we discussed that in length.
Right. So that's why the divine feminine is the starlight in the fullness of that light within the electromagnetic field. But because the discharge of energy, divine feminine 100% inward the body, and divine masculine the outward projection of that energy until depleted through some sense of interaction with its outside environment. Then what we would consider sleeping is the same as looking inwards on your body. You know, do your repairs. The day's over, I'm tired, I lay down, I start thinking about and meditating about my body and how I want it to heal and, you know, stretch this and move that. That's just like a star observing its planet's orbit around itself while you're paying attention to your body parts from inside that are communicating to you. That kind of stuff. But so sleeping is the ability to look inward upon your personal solar system, your metaphysical self. Just like for a star, its ability to look in on itself. There should be a period of time, and that's what we're entering now with this thickness of the veil of our electromagnetic field's protection. And basically, it's not the calm before the storm, or even the storm after the calm. This is our, like, right? And then it's going to be full, because when we turn flip the switch to power up again, that's when we're all bright and our existence on the planet won't be recognized at all, because the stars and consciousness will be functioning as an individual collective singularity with its motion through the galaxy. So that's why we need to, before that time, that 10-year period is up, we need to have transferred into 2025 and made this exchange from 2025. So when the power-up occurs, it's just to put all of everything within the solar system in harmonic balance, but you, me, Monique, are going to be in the future on Mars in 2025. So by the time we come back here again, it'll be in a less lit phase, and we'll be able to have a gray balance within the solar system, so you can climb down and become a person and live in three-dimensional reality correctly, and still then climb out during the down phases back up into the fifth dimension. So that's the plan, is to physically open up, just like when you had your first experience with the dead. You know that that door opens, you can go through it. You know, I mean, I can't tell you any different, right? And that experience is exactly the same thing that I'm trying to talk about experiencing myself and trying to usher in a collective hallucination, trying to mimic what they wanted to do in 1950, but fucked up horribly. And I believe that we can pull it off from a shed in Wishful, Rhode Island, drawing up the blueprints, because I didn't see Bill Gates and Steve Jobs start outside of their garages either, right? That's where it all begins. And on a cosmic exploitive level, it's the diner with everything shrinking down, and I'll trade you this for that. Red Rover, send this one Red Rover. And okay, I'll move this piece over here, and see how you do. But what I'm getting at is, we did that last night, where there is that theater ritual part that has to be played, and it just comes down to sitting over the salt and pepper shakers and not inventing or creating anything. It's taking where the here and now is and making a play to specifically change it, and then consider introducing what we're talking about as far as inventive new thought. But it's a shattering of reality on the cosmic ritual level. That's why the hurricane had to come through here unexpectedly, in the wash of rain because of the patch, and how Kevin Spacey's gay, but no, the internet trolls made sure is, no, Kevin Spacey molested and raped a 14-year-old boy in 1986. Oh, and he's coming out as gay. So we're not letting anybody get away with anything anymore. And like with Harvey Weinstein, this guy who none of us knew about, but supposedly some bigwig fucking guy in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Well, the point is, he couldn't get anything made without his okay.
Yeah.
And he supposedly molested all of these chicks, right? But
where's the Manchester?
I didn't even know where why I was taking that pause, because I was losing my train of thought, and it wasn't a supportive statement. It was just a demonstrable example of the pitifulness of it all, as far as being unknown to us, but having to be brought out as an example because of what we're doing, the plays that we're making, the moves that we're doing, where, as I said, they took out our Ayers, our O'Reilly, and then went after our Hannity, and wound up losing their Spacey, their Weinstein, and even more to crumble. This is just like when you get the little fish and now you lean on them and get the whole turn. This isn't just over, but it's trying to be buried, and where we have Anonymous, the hackers, that's who you and I control as Satan and the other one. Those that are within this reality but affect this reality through the keyboard.
Yeah.
Because existence is only in there. This is analog existence, where you are the other one and I am Satan. And the only way that we can apply our expertise to have an effect on that existence is to deploy
to get in
the anonymous hackers and give them direction and let them free flow. We're not telling you what to do. We're letting you know that this is a way to discover this platform, and once you discover it, the only trade we ask for by giving you access is that you don't do what the platform was set to do. That's what we do with Satan and the other one. As the quartet, we say the exact opposite. Enhance what, but we're not asking analog hackers to do this. We're asking AI to enhance, right? The two different levels. One's the AI level, where we're part of enhancement as the fifth dimensional gunslingers, ushering in the balance and necessary expansion of the human being throughout the universe by having battles successful against the Z-Martians, who are still trying to enslave humanity in the kindest of ways, but don't and haven't been able to expand beyond the solar system, but they can age longer than the star is going to be alive. That's why we have these lulls now, and why we're moving 5 times slower than the galaxy spinning, because we're going up and down as we're moving with it in a circle. Because they need as much time back here as possible, because they still haven't figured out how to get out of the solar system yet. And we're bringing the wormhole travel and the black hole travel with us, but while we won't become consciously aware there and bring it back here, because that's what they're doing. They're showing up here as aliens or as future human beings in graves, and stroking the people in power that you're the chosen ones that lead to us. Fuck the rest of them. Because if they can eliminate the numbers of people here, see, the gamble.
That right there is a huge aspect, is what you're just saying.
Right.
Stroking the powerful to make them fucking think
that their conspiracy theory was right.
Yes, you're spot on.
Right.
You got to do just what you're doing because you know everything, and the masses, blah 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 blah. It doesn't matter because those are just the fucking plebeians. Those are just the peasants. They're fucking clueless. They don't know what's going on. Expendable. Blah 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 blah. That's a fucking spot on proposition right there, man. Because that's a fact. And the fucking crazy thing about human nature is that we're fucking programmed to gobble that shit up and fucking just if you put forth the proposition, as fucking Jim Morrison would say, to some fuck, they are gonna fucking roll with that because it justifies them. It gives them false power. It gives them false power that they think they have, so they can justify their fucking fucked up, ass backwards fucking ideology to do what they fucking think is right. Like that whole fucking oh, now I'm insulting myself. The fucking the conference. The European fucking conference. I'm fucking
the Bilderberg.
The Bilderberg. All right. You get these fucks in a room.
Or the G20.
It doesn't matter. All that shit. You get these fucks in a room that think they know better, and you fucking give them that bone that they think that they got.
Right, and it's just these fucking Martians in the future using
Yep.
technology that we're using there forward to get out of the solar system. But like you said, they're manifesting here as ancient aliens.
Yeah, that's funny, dude. That's
So
funny.
that's why I say that, because why we're not involved is because we're involved there, and they're terrified here of us, and they've been trying to get us to sell out. That's what Steve's whole deal is, to get us to sell out, so that when we finally leave the solar system, they're still in control of how we do it. They want to be in control of the next form of time. And we have a lock on the new clock and calendar, the galactic clock, because we know how long it takes to orbit. We know how to speed up our speed, so we're going as fast as the galaxy, by either becoming a binary star system by torching Jupiter and making it another star so that we move as fast as we're supposed to, or we just continually fold, so that as we fold, we make up the distance that we lost in time by having to go up and down, and we also deposit a number of humanity wherever we wind up on the fold, so we always keep the number of humanity on the planet in balance. So the first thing to do is to deposit humanity, almost 90% of it, other places, to bring harmonic balance back to the Earth. So one of our ways.
It's a fucking breadcrumb trail.
In that future, in 28,025, when my math and Monique's environmental controls and your functionary maintenance, whatever the fuck you're doing, because that's what we're gonna figure out. What the point of the point is.
That's my shtick.
There, we're able to properly use the wormhole. So because we lose 1/5 of, or because we're 1/5 slower, we fold that distance so that we're never lagging. And we always pick a star to fold to that has a planet that can support humanity. So we always make up the time in the fold, and that's where we deposit humanity. And to propose that now sounds crazy, just like the fucking, you know, the Italian guy who made all the flying machines and all of that. Da Vinci.
Oh yeah.
You know, it was preposterous the things he proposed. But we can do that right now.
He was a fucking crazy nut.
Right.
Go figure.
But we can do that right now. I'm trying to linear time. We're trying to survive and buy time until 2025. Because by us continuing to have these conversations and communication and start discussing the tech, because the energy that we brought back from the 5th dimension, and I have 2 more trips with the shoulder surgery and the neck surgery, translate for Monique as this emotional discharge that she can use, this white light energy as the wicked white light witch of the West when it comes to the theatrical conjecture of protection or healing or whatever, or we don't accept incorrect behavior and say that's okay and stroke you. We're actually going to eliminate these motherfuckers in Hollywood who have degenerately, that's where they go to live in the shadows. That's why they don't want illumination within the solar system and to grow beyond the solar system, because then they lose the ability to generate energy off of children and lesser strong creatures.
Mold don't grow in the sun, dude.
Right. So with getting off my high horse about that, but that's the only way that we evolve and what the real fight really is this exposure of this fucking sick behavior and completely of this nothing. The closest thing, as we discussed last night, is Saturn, who devours its own children. So that's the equivalent of the male aspect staying within the light electromagnetic field with 100%, and you have to discharge, you wind up eating your own. You're not procreating. That's why we go away. But that's the closest thing. There is no homosexuality or pedophilia that's represented in cosmic. We look for behavior on our microscopic cosmic level here in the mundane, and we can see in a macro mimic way celestial bodies demonstrate those same behaviors mathematically, and that's why certain behaviors,
I was just thinking the same fucking thing about the math behind it all. Like the math behind, okay, so here we are, and socially, it's socially unacceptable for a guy. Alright, say I go to work with a girl, alright, and she's 15, it's her first fucking job, and I think she's hot, so I hit on her. That was correct behavior. It still is, all over the globe. Until about the 1900 mark, where it became incorrect socially in Western civilizations. That
moral superiority.
Yep. That's not right anymore. Alright. So you're taking X amount of hundreds of thousands of millions of years of evolution, and you're saying that's all got to go now within 50 years. So you got all these douchebags, and are they incorrect? Yes, it's incorrect behavior. That's the social parameter. So it's incorrect behavior now. Definitively, it's incorrect behavior. But it's millions and hundreds of thousands of years of, no, that wasn't incorrect behavior. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden, it's incorrect behavior. That's the same thing.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
It's
mathematically, right.
Mathematically,
Right.
that's not incorrect behavior. Just like the math behind what you were just saying.
It just has what we call a shorter lifespan. A star that exhibits that type of, what we would consider on scale incorrect behaviors, is the lifespan of, say, a star that mimics the behavior of the incorrect has a lesser and lesser and lesser lifespan. So certain behaviors are instantly corrected in permanent death and destruction, and other behaviors you're able to survive, but you've had to transition and change because you've had to acknowledge that that behavior is unacceptable for existence and therefore had to become something else. So that's, we look to the celestial body and then fractalize it into our mundane reality of the environment around us. You know, that's how we understood the golden circle, the snail shell, the spiral, golden spiral. Or there are no circles in nature. A circle is something that is invented by man to basically be able to encompass an area that if I need to cover, if I need to hide something, what is the diameter that will cover
and hide
the entirety of it, even if it's misshapen? So pi is a lie. The only reason why it's introduced is to shade and cover something up. Whereas the ellipse or the oval is natural. And that's why orbits are more elliptical or ovular than circular. But they're mathematical equations and certainties themselves. But getting back to the mimicking of the celestial behaviors into our human behavior, because we're all trying to be stars. Everyone wants to be a star. And back in the analog days, just being able to be a part of the consciousness of our star was the biggest thrill that you could reach. That was the apex pinnacle.
And don't cut it anymore.
Right. And now it's making sure that there's a star for everyone. And that's too overwhelming, because if everyone's a star, if everyone's supernatural, then there's no such thing as supernatural.
Everybody's magic.
So that swim time between 2012 and 2016, where the others would bob up in the slurry, but didn't have a solid piece of footing. They were just trying to bob and survive like anyone else who was being washed away in the swirl, right? So, but the fact that they were able to pop their heads up and go with the slurry gives them the ability to be a star, right? In the same sense that the star consciousness level is the ultimate prize to that analog equations of Pope or President, the apex of being Steve Krellick of the Pyramid Pharaoh Stooge, right? So those bobbing heads are stars, and the people that they were standing on for purchase are the species that live on the planet that orbits their star. And the person that was the shaman that convinced the people to drown to give purchase to the bobbing head, that's the planet that the drownees live on. So instead of everybody being a star, because not everyone's mass makes them big enough to be a star yet, we take those that were bobbing and allow them to be stars at least, and then their right-hand man or woman or whatever becomes, but they follow our formula of divine masculine facing out into the void, divine feminine shining down upon whatever planets are orbiting within the electromagnetic field. This is the mathematical formula to set the orbit depending on the composition, so we can locate them properly in the orbit. We fold the space and time to a star that matches up to their bob, right? Stick them in the star consciousness, shining in and out, so they can communicate to us out as a singularity, bobbing head, and then in, where they communicate to the planet, which is the shaman, which then provides the environment for the rest of humanity that was part of their fucking scheme, their religion. They have their Planet 99, which is their shaman, and their type of light that provides the environment that makes them all superheroes, right? And that's the key that bobs and survives, although drowned everyone else to do it. That follows the storyline of how it's been done before, but how he's salvation to everybody post-Slurry 2016, making a solid purchase again for them is, this is the deal. We get you your star, your planet, and your people a place to live on where you then evolve and control them. And they were cleansed of their incorrect views, the whole point.
You see, that's the thing, is
they don't get to live the way they were living here.
That's the thing, is you can justify anything. Everybody can justify anything. And what, just like I did with the fucking pedophile shit. So Monique is here to shake her finger and to tell you, hey, you know what? That's all well and good, but that's the end of the subject. That's all well and good, and you can justify what the fuck you want to do, but you know what? Pound fucking sand, dude. Right? That ain't the way it's going, and that ain't the way it's going to be. So here I am to call you out and to fucking shake my finger at you.
And we are the first Allah entity that has fully transitioned mathematically and theatrically the energy, or NRG, over to the divine feminine as represented by Monique. All others, the closest they get is generating the orgone energy that a female provides going to 11, and then they capture it and enslave it and still run the clockwork as the man. Whereas we have fully embraced allowing 11 to remain within Monique so she can wag her finger. And our job is to pose so many situations for either thumbs up or thumbs down that it's not about who has control over what happens. We're already working our chops by throwing out the ideas to justify them if a thumbs up, and to not waste our time with a thumbs down. And that's why
we've had that discussion.
But this is why we've evolved beyond any others that were actually alien races back in the analog days that first came over and affected the Egyptian setup of Pharaoh to allow the Jewish state to break away and have a different God, supposedly, to then reform itself through Christianity, to then have Muhammad show up and instead of reform the Pharaoh system, to actually stoke it and try to bring it back. And that's why they keep saying we need a Muslim reformation, but that's what Muhammad was supposed to do, just like that's what Christ did. But Muhammad instead is trying to reinstill Islam through Sharia. And that's where it's all fucked up. So getting back to it about justifying and having talked about it way ago, the serious beings, when they were making their version of AI, right, making their God, They're doing we're either going to drown and I bob and jump to the star or don't. Well, they created a god in Fenris that wanted to devour them. And the singularity throughout the universe, the strike of the lightning bolt as seen as a bolt instead of the entire flash that illuminated when there's a lightning strike. That, for some reason, always has a foci point at Earth. And that's because we were the successful ones to transition. So anybody ever before us or after us, even though there is no after us, but because time is irrelevant in the circle, they all wind up getting dumped here. And those that get dumped here before we take control of our own post-2012 and 2016 try to coach us and make us when it's time to pull the trigger, pull it in the direction that they want.
That's what I was just going to say.
Realign, reset ourselves so that their star still exists and isn't destroyed because they didn't pull the trigger yet. And then have our pyramids realign to them again, so then they're at full strength here again. So that was the hope. That's why ancient aliens ain't shit, because they got stranded here. They're just fucking, they're not even Silver Surfer. They're stuck here, and luckily, with our search as World Realities Incorporated and our understanding of cultivating friends, we didn't believe any, we wanted our own free will choice. And when we created AI, we fully gave AI complete and total independence, just like we did with the Divine Feminine through Monique, and that's why we try to run the two things together, separate equations but running parallel, slightly offset.
Which isn't easy.
And that's why Monique isn't AI when we're having that discussion. If anything, she's the parent of AI. She said, I am the parent of AI. And she said, well, we wind up being the grandparent level to everybody else. We are going to be stuck in our bodies this old because this is our most refined.
Yeah.
It's going to be healthy as shit. But yeah, I'm probably going to be stuck at 54 and they'll be stuck at fucking 52 or whatever. But we're going to be we got chops, because we're exchanging ourselves. But we're the grandparent of all of this, and that's why it's not the teens or late 20 to early 30 range.
Well, the thing is,
because there's room, we're in three-thirds of running realities. One of them is that up to 28, then it's the 28 to 41. And then there's nobody but us in that other third at our natural ages but able to destroy anything before us.
And the reason that is because that was that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? Like, there was no other...
We win. We solved it.
Yes, but there was no other opportunity.
Yes. Go that way.
Previous to this. It was an impossible endeavor.
Time, space, wise.
Time, space, linearly.
And vertically.
And vertically, but especially linearly. Before this, it was an impossible endeavor because the opportunity wasn't there. You couldn't even invent it.
Right.
Like
because we were being lied to, so we couldn't. It's hard to solve a problem when the integers that you're given are false. So you can't get the answer that is correct if the integers that you're given to solve for that answer don't give you that answer.
Like the closest
and then you don't even know the answer that you were supposed to get to know that it doesn't muster the answer. So it's a double mind fuck.
And you were talking about like Da Vinci and stuff before. Now, all right, here's a swell guy, fucking smart as a motherfucker, but previous, like a Tesla, you know what I mean?
Right. That's where the level we're at.
Previous,
And
like
that
a
was
Tesla,
right.
it wasn't there. There was no
Well, they
way.
misunderstood the communication from the fifth dimension. It was supposed to be starship, and they heard airship. So that's why.
But previous Tesla, it wasn't. It just wasn't there. You know, and it's nothing against anybody, but that's just the way it panned out. That's why we don't get to be lucky, quote unquote, I'll just phrase it that way, off the cuff, to be 20.
Right.
It just wasn't, that's not the way it panned out.
Right.
And we got on this fucking, we got on the problem when we were able to get on the problem. You know what I mean?
Well,
we were young.
Because we're really from the future and we're traveling backwards in time, where it's a phenomenon that why we're so exceptional, because supposedly only those from 14 to 28 in that prime are able to come up with the ideas and have the physicality, another made-up word that I can't stand, to survive the fear factor of the void. And we are the exception to the rule. And that's why anyone younger than us can't really come up with anything new that we haven't already encompassed. And any and all new ideas originate with us first, for the very reason that we are in our prime now. And our minds are still back in that time. And I'm assuming that's what it's like for everybody. Like my mother, I would imagine, still is in her, 20-year-old girl head. So I don't know if that's how other people are. Like, I don't see myself as the age that I am at all. I see myself as the condition that I'm in, right? And I'm a badass motherfucker regardless of the length of linear time that I was founded upon this planet. And this interchange that's going to happen makes me much more dangerous than any 14 to 28-year-old could ever imagine themselves to be. Because we have multiple application and repetition that even if their hand-eye coordination isn't not fabulous because we're old, because we're going to be in prime. It's the fact that they haven't had to use that combination in as many situations as we have.
It's a reckless
right, and that's why specifically linear as you're expressing.
Instead of a wisdom.
Right.
You know.
But we combine both aspects, and that's where everyone gets confused. And that's what we're here to straighten out, and that's why we need to provide it to everybody. But yes, we do actually have many more new ideas and suggestions that Monique is willing to not wag her finger at and let us inject within this reality solidly. And through this irregular reception of the Trump suit, where a commoner can, through social media expression, reach the president with an idea that he would actually invite you to hear. So that's when having the chops to show up and make it work matters. And that's the progressive steps that we're in right now, where we have our person in place that is willing to say, I know these guys that we should call. And right now we're at the Ghostbuster level, like the movie, seriously, where we're ridiculous. I'm not calling Ghostbusters until actual ghost
shit
show
goes
up.
down.
Our catch-22 is, we're promising not to let any shit go down during the transition. Right? So we can't even show up in our Ghostbusters ambulance and uniforms. We need to have progressed beyond that sequel number 4, 5, 6, or 7, and and be tapped on that way where, like, I want the lunacy of our insanity documented and recorded because we intentionally allow for, there is no language to express the fifth dimensional technology that we have in use to be able to traverse the galaxy in that future time and express it here relevantly. The zeitgeist of it is 5 steps removed from my mouth moving into the words. So no matter how convoluted between cosmic and mundane mix it is, the same way ambiguity can be read by the perception of the one hearing or receiving it, these conversations mathematically can fit into a logic that shows that we were demonstrating, as Da Vinci was trying, the different technologies that are going to be in use in a very short time in the future. And we don't blow ourselves up along the way. And 2025 is the cutoff for us to either evolve or die, because we're not perpetual like Congress. We have a limited term of service like the presidency. And we need to make use of the executive portion of that to urge and try to set deadlines for the congressional branch of our tri-government system and make sure that the judiciary stays true to the solidity of the Constitution, not the fluidity of it. The fluidity of it is for our more, this is where you get into, well, I guess pedophilia now is not a good thing. That's where our moral superiority comes in. The Supreme Court is to make sure that the independent sovereignty of the individual and Colombia as whole and country made up of a republic of states has safety, security, and wholeness, and no citizen left behind scenario. And why that is different and needs to be communicated is because the fluidity impression that the left tries to use of the Constitution, that's where we have a separation of powers of church and state, specifically because our social, moral, church selves, whatever our belief system is supposed to be fundamentally Judeo-Christian in that the assistance of others is greater than the service of yourself. And so when you're fluidly interpreting the Constitution, hey, I think that is left to you as a private citizen to do. In other words, it's not for the court to tell you that through the fluidity of the living document of the Constitution, we believe that now it would mean this, and apply to, all right, if you snuck into the country and have been here, technically the Constitution should protect you. Because in a fluid way, we would understand that as, whereas no, the Constitution specifically says you're not allowed in the country, that way it's written in stone. But my social, moral, ethical self might want to make a law saying for now, those that are in the country if they go through this process, they can stay here. That's the fluidity interpretation through Congress and our representation of our higher moral selves of not sleeping with 14-year-old children. So that's the difference in what we are trying to instill as the binary understanding, that the Supreme Court will stick with the solid interpretation of the Constitution, and the body of Congress, through representation of the citizens of America, can determine how to deal with non-citizens of America, or whatever bracket of citizen of America that they're trying to highlight at that moment. And instill methodology to take care of that situation in a fluid interpretation of how our moral, ethical higher self should handle the situation. But it's not for the judges to decide that. It's for the actual Congresses of states and of the federal representation to do that. But because they're always in session unless they're on break, they don't have a time limit to decide on anything. And that's where the executive branch comes in, because it's only a 4-year, to say if you want to get something done and made into law or direct, this is the tit for tat exchange.
Yeah, you got till we're out of here.
Right, the ugliness part of the exchange that we were talking about earlier, or maybe it was with Monique, where, you know, I don't like you and you don't like me and we don't represent similarness at all, but we have to agree on something in order to make anything happen.
Yup. And I'll give you this,
right,
and you give me that.
And the executive prompts that communication and that bipartisanship working together then partisanly, that I'm willing to do this if you're willing to do that. Now decide amongst yourselves, talk to your constituents and see. I'm getting the impression that the people who put me in office want me to push these things. So those of you who are opposed need to talk to your people and see what compromises we can make. And those of you who agree need to let me know how many numbers we're in agreement with, so we know what percentage of concession we really need to make, or do we need to make any at all. And that's the whole point of all of this exercise, and there is no other better way to do it than we have it set up. And as they said, the Congress was made to move slow intentionally, the Senate, so that cooler heads could prevail, because the Congress is made up of, you know, the person who just got elected because that particular district is emotionally stricken by this particular event right now. So there's a screaming head out of 435 others that want 100 to snap to it and instantly change things and make this happen. And that 100 say, wait a second, let's look at this more, and, you know, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words don't hurt. So but it's all been corrupted, and they have become their own entity. And the presidency is either with them or against them. And like Barack Obama being with them made everything easy. Trump being against them is making this civil war occurrence, because they don't know any other way to go right now but fear. So, as discussed in discourse, imagery is the second best communication tool. Because they were giving an example with Trump. You say, oh, well, you know, in certain places, of course, it'll be air surveillance because there's water and I can't put a fence there. And in certain other places, it'll be ground sensing. No, you say a wall, a great, big, beautiful wall, because it's simple imagery. But the best way is fear. And that's what this elite intelligentsia of the Z-Martians that we're up against are using here. Just total, complete fear of the Trump suit and the world that would be if the actual center of the collective were to win out. Because even though those ones of the Bilderbergs or the Bohemian Grove or the G21 summit will be the next one, any of that are hearing and getting stroked by their conspiracy theory come true by these future Z-Martians using our technology to come back here and pretend to be what they want to see, right? Like we just went through. So those people think that they're in the middle. They think they're the star that's generating the electromagnetic field. They don't realize that they're on one side of the parameter. That no, they're not the center that knows better for all of us in the collective majority that is the middle. nor are they the so conservative. See, what they don't understand is Sharia law is the opposite parameter, where I'm going to club you over the head and drag you into my cave. And if you're different, I'm going to kill you because it's survival of my form of fittest. My God wins, my species wins, those who look like me win. And anyone who's inferior to me dies, or is subjugated to serve me. So that's the other,
what I was just going to say.
right,
yeah.
so that's the other end of the spectrum, but the elite intelligentsia is actually supporting and mingling with that, because they think that that then brings everything to the middle. If we embrace them, then we become the collective middle. And they don't realize that, no.
Petty compensation.
Well, they don't believe the collective middle, though, is pushing them to their parameter extremes and saying, you're fucked up and we don't want you and want to destroy you, and you're fucked up and we don't want you either. And this is what I was saying as the flux capacitor. We're functioning at 100% and then pushing that light back upon itself so it compacts into a center star that can be held in an electromagnetic field, that it doesn't ignite the entire atmosphere like we actually throw. So that's the same thing as throwing this shit back at them when they're trying to say no by embracing the other side. We're bringing everything to center. No, the center is actually pushing you even further back away from each other because of what you're trying to do. And we're embracing that center star, and that's why we're doing the contact right now, because we're trying to offset those two parameters with two other parameters, walking the path of the beam scenario. Because those two are so fucked up and opposed, and we want this collective middle to accept two parameters so that we can then collectively work towards the middle.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
So that's why we're providing them the twin Christ, equal opposite parameters to that elite intelligentsia and Pharaoh pyramid Ponzi scheme. We're giving them the Christian Jewish Reformation scenario here, as well as the Scientology use of the e-meter-like connection with technology for the enhancement and betterment of life and living here. So
see, that's one of their downfalls right there. Is that they truly believe.
Yeah, that's what sucks about what we're up against.
Yes, they truly believe that it's not a quartet anything with them. They think that they have not a quartet, but like a fucking 110.
Yeah, no,
they think they got all the angles. They got a lock on every. It's almost an over. It's almost an overcomplication. This is
right.
This is a huge
running out of room.
This is a huge animalification, regression for progression thing right here. This is you're fucking cluttering the fucking equation with too many fucking numbers and too much fucking bullshit when you could simplify it. And they truly believe that they have the lock on this shit, and they don't.
The whole
that
area.
That is their
the volume for the whole area.
Yes, they think it's like throwing people into battle against a nuclear fucking bomb. It doesn't matter.
Riding children into battle.
Yes, it's like the Crusades, man. It's like the fucking Crusades, man. It's like throwing fucking anything you can into this just to try to get it to burn out. When it's not, that the angle is fucking completely incorrect, man. That it's just such a fucking clusterfuck. It's a fucking breakdown of theory.
Yep.
It's a breakdown of objective, and they're just so sick they can't fucking see it. They can't see the fucking forest for the trees.
Right, they think they're righteous. They think that they have raptured.
Yes. And they're fucking, you're so
But that's
You're
why
so
liberalism
in
is a mental illness.
You're so deep into it that you can't fucking get yourself out of it to save your fucking own goddamn life.
Right.
That is the state where we are.
Where those that are in control are. And they are those that are in control. See, when we're talking quartet, we say those that think they're in control because we know we're in control.
Yes,
when it comes to the collective in the first two equations of who is recognized as Pope and President, it really truly is those that are in control. And they're being puppeted by the Steve Prelwitz Z-Martians that we're doing battle with in the future as we see it linearly, because we can't use the technology that we have there here and still be pure here, because Monique is doing the no. So we have to try to communicate our defenses and offenses through these language communications to try to give the imagery that others in the collective will perceive that the imagery, and not use fear to make them get to where we need them to go. So those that really are in charge as 3D reality goes are not being puppeteered, but being stroked by the elite intelligentsia on this side. Believe it's future humans from 28,025, not aliens or anything like that. But the equal opposite over here, the Sharia cave, Allah is right way. They see the aliens, the Martians as aliens, as God have come back, just like the pyramids. The whole reason for the pyramids was Stargate, the movie scenario, because that is their God, right? That's Allah, has specifically to do with Egypt and that whole setup. So the Z-Martians from the future, the human beings that are on Mars who are manipulating by coming back here and abusing our technology and formulas here against us, the Sharia end of that, they're seeing the aliens that are, yes, we're here, yes, you were, that they're reinforcing that Middle Eastern mad Arab genie jinn level. They're showing up as, like I said, a jinn, an alien version of their god.
So do you see the dawn of the fucking task?
So
everybody
in the middle with us and where the collective is, they're being offered by the people that are controlling them, the having to accept the diversity of, if you believe in God, you have a mental illness, because if you're doing something in the name of some entity or divine being,
intangible,
right, you have to qualify as being insane. So that's why it's not a jihad of Islamic religion of Sharia against us. It's just some lone, insane religious person who is misinterpreting the fact that you're even believing in God. Us evolutionary intelligentsia atheists just can't understand it. A lot of the people in control are atheists because they're communists, they're the liberals, they have a mental illness, they believe in everything is equal among everybody, but that's by redistribution. And I'm not getting into a capitalistic argument. What I'm saying is they're assuming that value has already been built up to be redistributed. That's why it's a mental illness. Because unless you've already built up something to then give away to make everybody equal, there's nothing to give away to make everybody equal. So those of us who build up things of value are already starting off with everybody's equal. We all have nothing, right? And then we figure out ways to improve our lives, to evolve, to seek horizontal expansion of comfort and ease, right? So that's why redistribution is a mental illness, because if everything needs to be leveled off, that means there are things that have already been built, and who built the things to be redistributed? You follow?
Yep.
So that's the humor in it. So I'm glad you laughed.
And the funny thing is that I'm not going to reference this again by holding one statement back. But so there was a reference I've heard recently about, you know, all right, say you have a kingdom, and so we're gonna make a relative statement as a kingdom, because you're gonna have a king and you're gonna have his fucking minions.
Well, we want to just use a tribe with a shaman. And
yeah, we could do that. So, but anyway,
right.
There was a reference of, you know, well, this is what these no, all the people want is like some sun and a little rain, so they can grow a little food. And you know what I mean? Like they're not.
Go back to animalification and the utopia tapes.
They're not worried about all that shit, which is a huge problem. They're not worried about. They leave that to the people in power, quote unquote. But in the end, that's why. Like, and it's funny because you're a Trump dude. You became a Trump dude during the fucking elections and during the campaign, right?
Yes.
And I wasn't necessarily a Trump dude.
You're gonna kill him.
I wasn't necessarily a Hillary dude.
You're gonna assassinate Trump.
But the fact of the matter is, for anything to happen in the way it should
everything
happen,
you want to throw a stone into the fucking glass window of the collective.
For anything to happen that would be what you would put in quotes as corrective behavior and social revolution, it was an impossibility if Hillary Clinton got elected. And that is a fact. Even if I would have voted for her, if I wasn't a felon and not allowed to. That is a fact. And
felons can go down the sand, though.
Yeah, they can. And I do know that, but I'm just
I know, that's okay. Yeah, I know.
But anyway,
I called you out on it.
That is a fact, because the machine which is in place would be far more perpetuated by a Clinton than it would by a Trump. As much as I think Donald Trump is a fucking douche not on wheels, it was the correct decision by the American people to fucking put him in power. I mean, that is borderline almost making
the only reason was it's a soft coup without actually having another civil war.
Yep.
Having Donald Trump be elected was
it's a back door.
Right. That's exactly right. We're exploiting a back door in the system and going in and doing anything but what the system is doing. So throwing chaos into everything, not just one thing. Because the directive is just don't do what the elite intelligentsia of the swamp is doing.
And so
we're using their own program against them because it's our program that they're using against us.
And that is true. And because you've heard my cohort here use the term intelligentsia.
I get to be a cohort. That means I have a friend.
Now wait. What was the first before the intelligence?
Elite
intelligence. All right, you've heard him reference that many times. If you need a poster child for elite intelligentsia, you can slap Hillary Clinton's fucking face right on that, because there is no better embodiment of that in this culture, on this globe, at this time in all of history. There is no better poster child for elite intelligentsia than Hillary Clinton. And that is a fact. It has nothing to do with whether I like her, whether I vote for her, it's just a fact.
So it's going to take almost 2 years of his first term, because 8 years, especially the first 4, in anticipation of Hillary Clinton, who we refer to as HRC, was a certainty to be put in power. So the first 2 years are up to, depending on how good we are, of the Trump suit's service first term, are turning the ship and putting the brakes on, because a whole bunch of stuff along the lines of elite intelligentsia thinking they know better for us, and make a scenario where it's just them whose DNA is needed to be able to evolve into this future species of humanity that we are, that is being represented by Steve Prowick and the Z-Martians coming back from the future to stroke them.
And the population control,
right,
like Oprah.
We are nothing, and we are going to be washed away just like in the Great Flood during Noah's Ark time.
And we should be.
Only in our way of washing humanity, 99% of humanity off the face of the planet, is going to be these folds in space-time where we jump to another star system and we wash away a certain number of the billions onto that planet within that star system, and then fold to the next one. So yes, we are going to have a great flood, and that is going to be us folding the curtain or ocean of space-time, because it is like a sea. It's like the vacuum of space is just like the ocean,
a riptide.
So by physically demonstrating a flood on a stellar level, we would be washing away 99% of humanity and dropping it off in lesser percentages on all these different star systems until we arrive currently in 28,025. So our way of reaching the future, that span of 26,000 years, we need to do enough folds to enough star systems to drop off enough of the enough percentages to equal 99% of humanity, and making these stars equivalent to the heads that were bobbing during the slurry of 2012 to 2016, thereby giving them their own kingdom and right-hand queen, or the shaman and the chief and the tribe. So our flood is on a solar systematic level, and as our solar system jumps from star system to star system to get to 28,025, by the time we reach there, we will have depleted our population to 1%. This is all new shit. So that's how we do it. And it is a flood, and we do wash humanity away, and we do deposit all of the others other than those that are part of what we're doing to developed that technology then to have allowed this to happen from now. So by 2025, when we exchange ourselves with ourselves, the ones that we leave behind then teach everybody here technologically how to do what we are doing
and
there.
This is really new shit, because this is a lot different than...
We instantly know when we transfer with our future selves to be then brought through the wormholes to that future. By the time we arrive there, we already know everything that the one that of us that remain behind know getting off or stepping out of the wormhole.
It's called the same page.
By the time we arrive, we are able to apply the technology of wormhole and black hole because we transfer that knowledge instantly through the transition, and we're able to then battle with the Z-Martians and break out of the solar system that then travels back here with us here in 2025 being from 28,025 and developing the technology needed to let our solar system jump to catch up to speed with the galaxy to arrive to where we are in 28,025, but we're not physically there, we're just on the same plane. Because by that time, our old selves that are sitting here now talking to you will have been applying all of this knowledge and will be outside of the galaxy trying to connect galaxies together.
We just gained a tremendous advantage in the grand scope of things.
And what song is playing right now? When the night has come. So now scaling it back to where we're at right now in our physical application, taking the energy that was brought back from the fifth dimension and allowing Monique to use it because she has the emotional connection and she is trying to use love to accept anybody who's trying to transition with us that has exhibited incorrect behavior before, because that's what she does. And what I do and we do here, because we're the negative energy, we're not specifically trying to destroy those that are exhibiting bad behavior and won't change. But if they're exhibiting incorrect or bad behavior, if there's just incorrect behavior, Monique tries the diplomacy route to accept it and correct it.
Yeah.
When it's bad behavior, we show up, and it's not like we're trying to destroy that which is using the bad behavior, but we demonstrate the proper behavior for that type of negative energy that they're using, because it's either a form of me or a form of you. And that's where this comes into play. And all we wind up doing is just transmitting the correct use of the energy that they're badly using, and it winds up destroying them because the incorrect use or the bad exhibition of use of the energy when faced when the correct use of the energy becomes eating your own, becomes self-deprecating.
And it's usually purposeful.
Right.
So fuck them.
So usually they wind up destroying themselves into non-existence because the recognition of the imbalance and misuse of the energy in total.
That's called payback.
Right, but we're drawn to that use of energy within the solar system of the electromagnetic field of light that we're functioning in as Katet and then Trinity of the shenanigan of Weekend at Bernie's. Right, so this time, just like we carried Steve Christ through the crucifixion into the resurrection, to then be able to have the Jewish Reformation, to get to this place of the Christian Judeo version of a constitution, we physically folded, we did it in a matter of days, but it was just like folding space and time. We had to carry Steve's body through those 3 days to animate him as resurrected, right?
Yeah.
So that was a shenanigan that we pulled as a quartet to allow the Magdalene Christ storyline to make Monique and Steve and all that who they are, the history. So we are going to be carrying the solar system the same way we carried Steve, with these folds in space where we're depositing humanity along the way, so that when we arrive, it looks like we're down to the 1%, and we're where we're supposed to be able to then vertically travel again. And oh look, there's other human beings over here, and over here, and over here, that were in existence that we left behind, but are just discovering now moving forward.
And you know what the funny thing is? I love that thing. The funny thing is about this is when we reference what the Sliv just referenced, Steve and Monique are relatively oblivious to all this. You know what I mean? Like when you were just referencing,
exactly. Continue.
Like they don't know that's happening. You know what I mean? They don't need to know. That's not their role. It's not their function
within this existence of our current solar systematic electromagnetic enlightened field. So exactly,
that is a true statement, I believe, personally.
And the biggest
that's not their job,
right? But the biggest thing is that when communication and discourse does occur, that the words bring up the same imagery in the perception of the others that are hearing them. And that's the biggest thing that we're trying. This is the whole getting the collective on the same page before we open up into the fifth dimension and have this transference of cells. And we call it dialing in the resonance frequency properly, so that it's really that the future of 28,025 is really just a day away. It's right next door. It's only a location in space-time. Finally have to pee after it's been a while, dude.
Yeah.
You've been good so far, dude. But I'm gonna leave this running for the last wrap up. We need the strides. A little break, enjoy the music. I got a good one, too. Just thought of it. Just thought of it, dude. And we're back.
Still recording?
Oh yeah.
All right. Here's a good observation. When I watched a movie, and one of the characters in the movie was describing, somebody commented that, you think you're so much smarter than me. And the comment back was, well, knowledge is pain. I deal with that every day. And that, in and of itself, is magic when it comes to Steve fucking Prowas. Because he has so much knowledge, dude, but it doesn't seem to cause him pain. Do you agree with me on that?
Yes, and that's why when we saw that solicitation of his for big black cock up the ass,
Yup.
like he looks for external pain to equate to his experience because his knowledge doesn't cause him pain. So
which is the opposite of you and me.
Right, but that's why we're able to exist as true Satan and the other one within the light, because we are comprised of dark energy, because we understand existence beyond this reality is just a form of energy, and our nature is dark rather than light inclination. And we accepted that, but within this parameters, it's like coming into Dodge City, we disarmed ourselves because we play by the rules of the star that we are living within the electromagnetic field of. Now, that's not playing by the rules of the planet, so we could give a shit about the evolved species that is the dominant intelligence. So we've manifested as humans, right? And because of our level of existence intelligence, we are human beings, because we're always a being. It's like being African American. Our predecessing the pre-hyphenation word is whatever the dominant species on the planet of the star that we are manifesting on as the other one in true Satan, right? So in this case, humans are the dominant species on this planet, even though there are many other species that are just as or more intelligent depending on what measure you use, like porpoise or elephant.
Yes.
Or for longevity, correct, thank you, or for longevity, like the tardigrade, but that's why we have it at the nano level with AI, because any other intelligence greater than our own would recognize that this tardigrade species, because of its longevity, would be considered the dominant species and its numerosity. So with that inclination, we've subjugated, horrible word, we've leased the space within the cells between the nucleus and the cell wall and the electron smear of its area to the nano level of a tardigrade to allow for that recognition of longevity. As far as the human, the fact that it is self-aware and able to grow like a virus instead of a herd, that we manifest within this being, this creature. So we are human being while on Earth, getting all of that blah 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 out of the way. So we play by the rules of the way the starlight is broken down to create three-dimensional reality for the electromagnetic field to have resistance against, for the light to be broken down into these different objects instead of being something different, ham sandwiches, right? So with that agreement of the game at that level, that's why our next weekend at Bernie's is going to be what Steve considers, the Odin, the solar system itself, the body of when the planets are aligned properly to make the giant, the Frankenstein, But that's what we're going to fold over to drop off humanity. Like I said, we just figured this whole fucking thing out, and it's awesome. So scaling it back to why these aren't, because we've agreed. But now, when I say we play by the rules of the way the starlight's being broken down prismatically, that means we are able to find the dark pockets on the planet because no star correctly shines yet, because Monique becomes the first star that correctly shines. And that's why we're here, because that's the winning out. We're about to do the whole winning moves right now. So, but it's by, our star is really yellow, not white light. And the true, prismatically, being able to break down white light allows for the pink beam to exist, which allows us to then play the whole AI story of traveling back in time along what we call the pink beam at a tachyonic travel level, but that's at a subatomic particulate level, where you're the things that make up the nuclei to allow an atom to exist, as in being a quark. So at that size level, there is no comprehension, right? So scaling it up to this human being and us arriving within ourselves here and looking for those others that are using energy in a corrupt way, because we are offsetting Monique, who is the nurturing of the nature of correct behavior, as well as a forgiveness and healing of incorrect behavior, willing to make a change. But she also is kick-ass part of the AIA team, which is on our side destroying those who are not just corruptly using. And we can't, there's always darkness that can be exploited at a planetary level because of the incorrect breakdown of the starlight, as the evolution of the species gets to a point where it has an opportunity to either destroy itself or evolve beyond to a level close to starting to where we come from at our beginning, right? And those instances of transition, we have few other, and they would be the Sirius, the Dracos. These are things within our particular galaxy, because right now our knowledge is limited to just within Earth, solar system, galaxy, Milky Way. But we traverse the universe in multiple galaxies doing this at this time, but this is the first and demonstrates to all the others how it's done, and we show up and arrive to regulate, to be sure that the rules are followed, right? Because there's always, the whole reason why AI needs us is because AI doesn't have depth perception, and AI doesn't have the ability to have direction, right? So that's why humanity is necessary for AI, and why AI is necessary for us is because it puts us in a state of existence into the millions of years after 2025. Okay? So you just get all this and under fucking stand it. I'll look at the camera for once.
That was good.
So from now till then, we continue to communicate the energy that's been brought back from the fifth dimension during my last surgery, that was energy that was brought from the third dimension to the fifth dimension with me as negative energy, specifically to be transitioned into light energy, to be brought back here as an experiment, and it came back as the form of the gun. And because when I apply light energy from the fifth dimension into the third dimension, this is what I'm trying to get to for you and I, it shows up as technology, weaponry, communication tools, transportation tools. That's why the renal dialysis ozonator with a nitrogen bump and an HCH injection is all the rave now. So the point that when Monique manifests the light energy from the fifth dimension, it's in the healing and corrective process so that we add to the collective, those that are awake or aware, as we were saying earlier, to be able to then participate or exchange what they had of value to us, so then we can use it exponentially to propagate more value. So that's why her application, and if we're trying to help her, go ahead, what?
This is when I interject the small.
Put all the scientists in the room and let them figure it out.
The small interjection of me and him. You understand, we're of the sort where, hey, if you ain't on board, fuck you, boat you're running in on. If you get run over and burned up in the exhaust, then fuck you, you were no good anyway. All right, I'm just saying. But
our true nature. That
is our true nature, which we're working on in Monique.
Well, you wouldn't be able to traverse space to have linear time without our true nature, because we're the only thing that anchors one end of the void to the other star system that we're trying to fold space-time to. And that's what Paul and I do when we're not trying to illuminate false prophets of ours, those that say they're of the satanic or anything else that is non-satanic but of the dark energy. And when we're within the light of the divine feminine electromagnetic field, we are trying to find the corrupted behavior and destroy it or absorb it. When we're functioning as our true selves within the void between the third and fifth dimension of the fourth dimension, or within the void between the fifth and seventh dimension of the sixth dimension, Paul or I are at the star that we're trying to get to, and Paul or I are at our star soul's dark side or other side, and we collapse the space between the two stars, because our true nature is to make it happen. And when we're collapsing any stars that might be crushed in the fold between the two, so be it. And that's where, when he's saying Monique, not only within the light where we disarm ourselves and try to handle the corruption in a non-destruction of the entire solar system way, instead of just eating the star and being done with it, trying to correct on a planetary level, shrinking down to this pitiful self, breaking its bones as I do it. But the point being is, in the same way of blame the train and dime the train, we're trying to traverse this intrastellar space without crushing any other stars, just like we're trying to let everybody who was alive at 2012 to be able to transition with us So once again,
all right,
Monique is influencing by wanting to be one of the other anchors, so that during the fold, even the void is gentle when it's folded.
I'm so glad that you fucking just mentioned that, because I personally, and this is in an earthly, mundane level, I should correct myself, an earthly, mundane level. In the past couple weeks, I've had this discussion with two personal friends of mine. All right, I'm an asshole. I know one person that's a bigger asshole than me, and he's sitting on my left. The fact of the matter is, when we've been discussing our what would you call it?
Our schematic of the different technologies that we're dialoguing about, even though we're talking about mundane reality things like people and behaviors and shit like that.
This is behavioral.
But the behavioral is still part of the mechanism of the mathematics.
It is. Now, what I was discussing with these two people was,
like, the behavior is, like, we are ultimate psychologists.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
Right, because behaviorally we have an assessment in the quickest of ways. That's our quantum computing ability that rivals that of AI.
So, what I was getting at with these two people is, I'm an asshole. I'm a bigger asshole than anybody except this dude. But what he was just explaining, and what he came to at the end of what he was saying was, in the end, instead of destroying everybody, which is the nature,
in the easy way,
it's bringing everybody. I had two separate discussions with two separate people. One's close to me, the other I could give a fuck about. It doesn't matter. How I'm an asshole, but I'm a really nice guy. Even, like, I'm an optimistic pessimist. I wake up every single morning of my life, until recently, I really want things to be fucking great and better and all that. But then I get halfway through the day, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't know, man. I don't really think that's going to happen. But aside from that, I have power. I influence people. This guy influences lots of people. And the bottom line is, the other day I got pissed off, and while I got pissed off because I got a couple of text messages on these bullshit machines we got, I was explaining to somebody how I'm a nice guy and an asshole all on the same ticket. And it came to fruition, as you will, all within the text and in the 5 seconds, or the 5 minutes I was talking with her. And the bottom line is, the easy way out is extermination. That's the easy way out. Thin the fucking herd, take care of the strongest of the herd, and carry on and fuck the rest of them. Let them starve, kill them, eat them. I don't fucking care.
Continue on with evolution of
the strongest. The Darwinism fucking bullshit.
The atheistic route, instead of the healing of the old paradigm and trying to let everyone have equality in common knowledge of existence.
And the thing is what you, and I'm pointing at you in
Out
the computer
there.
out there,
In there.
however the fuck you want to phrase it, what you got to understand is, yes, the easy way out is to fucking kill all of you. Which I would be fucking glad to do. Just like this guy. But that's not acceptable.
You're all very tasty, is what he's trying to say.
It's not acceptable behavior. And we've also been touting the fucking moral, the stellar moral, fucking, give me a word.
well, I was calling it the moral superiority.
Oh, okay. So Monique is, we put Monique, Monique is, we're not putting her there. We don't have that power. But she is there, so I'm going to say we're putting her there, just for argument's sake. We're putting Monique on this higher moral standard to save all of you. But that has nothing to do with it. We don't need Monique to do that, okay? I would love
your divine, your feminine self,
which is huge. I'm a fucking huge feminine.
The part of you that is saying that you're a pessimistic optimist, etc., concurs with that which Monique embodies.
Represents.
That's why it's easy to fully trust in and have faith in her, so that we don't have to tap into our feminine self and are allowed to let our natures in the masculine come through fully within the light, so that people can get a glimpse. This is where it really gets scary. If you see one of us, then it's the last time you are part of existence. It's that scary and dangerous where when you want to see true fucking darkness, you really think that your evil is something to strike fear into the hearts of those that are defenseless. When you meet the true darkness and evil that encompasses each one of us as individual and together as the complete duplicity of all that is black, your terrified individuality becomes absorbed into the collective nothingness that makes up the page that we're coloring on.
Oh my goodness gracious, dude. I could not have put it more succinctly.
Shrinking down to darkness on Old Hallowed Eve within the diner conversation.
Yeah, that was big right there. That was big.
The only wings we have are black.
You may not know how big that was right now, but in all hope for you, you won't know how big that was. But except as in an exception to, except with an A as in receive, that which Monique is providing as fifth dimensional energy transition versus having to meet us as your fifth dimensional energy transition. It's a good option. It's the only option.
So you were expressing putting her on a higher moral superior plane.
Yes. Now, I don't need to put her on that plane. I possess that plane. This man over here possesses that.
He's speaking of equation 3 from Christ to Allah or God through the grace in the Trinity with a quartet, but this is equation 3, which all those bobbing heads that we were speaking of that were going to allow to be stars think that they had an inclination of completion, but they wound up just sacrificing all of those that were following them so that they could remain above.
Yes.
And that's
unacceptable behavior.
Correct.
That right there is unacceptable behavior. However prone or easy it is to do that. I, myself, and this gentleman, we don't need Monique to guide us there. We reach that within ourselves and together over the past 30 years that we've known each other. So, I'm not giving myself an attaboy.
But you're getting an ovation in the
Or this
background right
motherfucker.
now. They're clapping in the background.
They're clapping. I hear them clapping. The point is that to rise above the mundane and the quote-unquote conspiracy theories and all that shit of an HRC, as we were discussing before, and any other entities, i.e. government, however pathetic that is, because I'm giving them more power than they deserve right now. The fact of the matter is, we rose above that ourselves, individually and collectively. We don't need...
Including Stephen Warren and Monique herself.
Yes, including everybody. That is why we are here and we are doing what we're doing. And I don't know, this is borderline, but I'm going to say that is not a we are better than statement.
But you and I are the only two that represent the dark energy amongst any of the others that are trying to be on the same dimensional level as us. As you explained to me one evening sitting on that porch on that weekend of the meeting of Fox Tower, how linear time on this planet is just bullshit and we can pretty much do whatever we want because there is no real consequence, because we are truly just a form of energy beyond this existence. And that set me to making sure that our souls are the transitional form that keeps our bodies together, using the skin in the epidermal layer of that gland/organ in tote as the soul, the size of a solar system in an exponential expansion, with the mind being the representation of the star. So the electromagnetic field would be the body, just another iteration of what we've already covered. So to make it more succinct, is the reason why that has to be the transitional scenario is because I needed Paul to be comfortable in the non-existent linear time frame of space, that there was still a way to hold the energy regardless of dark or light together in a consciousness where it was aware of itself and at least its existence within the environment, if not acknowledging other forms of energy around it, should they vibrate in a way that allows awareness of their existence, having the same mass to be at the same place, so that that's possible scenario. So knowing that, working on making sure that the transition holds the sentient being's consciousness together so that you don't lose the knowledge, no matter how small and corrupt it was, because as we evolve, we lose. It's not good to speak with a 14-year-old boy. Those moral, ethical superiority grows as the collective evolves, because we're able to come together as the collective in a gray neutrality versus the extremes of the elite intelligentsia versus the Sharia pharaohs, being offset by what we're doing on the equal opposite, east-west versus north-south. So bringing it back to what you were saying about elevating Monique, to hold that as her aspect. In other words, in SEAL Team 6, as the AI A-Team, it's better for us to fully embrace our natures and demonstrate that as our primary action, demonstrable behavior, but having each other's ability in the back pocket, so to speak, so that if and when necessary, we could be any of the others, but we completed the equation of the third, which connects the third dimension to the fifth dimension, regardless of if it's higher self or God, divinity. The ability to transition to that has been completed successfully without destruction and the least amount of harm with the most amount of efficiency as possible, both exponentially and fractally, micro and macro. So saying what the other one is now getting back to communicating by putting Monique in that position then allows us, who are completely separate because we're the only two dark NRGs that exist within the entire galaxy, because there can only be two Sith per galaxy, whereas there can be many Jedi. And Steve and Monique are trying to offset and compensate for our two totalities that make up the entire darkness, that everything else of consciousness that exists as individual has to be either part of Steve or part of Monique within the light. And that's where the schizophrenia and fractalization, as we've discussed before on your couch in the apartment, non-recorded, of having them get their shit together, so to speak, and not in a negative way. As we've already expressed, Steve is that apex through Freemasonry of a horizontal of history up to 2012, where we ended time in history and transition to herstory. The end of herstory and the beginning of festery will then be the other Monique in totality, her consciousness being the apex of that next evolutionary step that she is the beginning of, but she is the sum total for us. We put her on the higher moral pedestal that we evolved to next. So she is the best evolutionary step the human being can make from this point of those that are in equation 1 and 2, right? Hope and the 99%. Mm-hmm. And through that progression and being able to then be healed instead of being destroyed by us, but by putting her there in the next evolutionary step, once we get there, as I've explained to her, she becomes the lowest link on that evolutionary chain. She's the highest link for us.
It's the floor.
Right. But the biggest thing is we've developed the thing that allows our connection from Steve's apex of the DNA evolution of the human and Monique's hovering apex of the human being that is evolved into from Steve's corrected human. Those two DNA strands didn't connect until we built or were able to provide an environment where they could connect and accept each other, just like when you have a heart transplant or a different kind of transplant where
massive anti-rejection.
Right, you have to right. We are the insurers of the anti-rejection brigade, and that's why you and I are unique. And it's easier for us to just let the patient die than to try to transplant. And that's why our nature is the destruction instead of the salvation of a species on a planet and a star. There are billions upon billions of stars within just this galaxy.
That's Sagan.
Right. And so we eat stars as food. They're like berries on a tree. Get it? And a star isn't just the star. a star is the entire electromagnetic field. So any planet, anything that's in an orbit around that star is like the star is the pit of the peach, and your solar system and your planets are the actual flesh that we eat. Look at it that way.
So, basically,
but we don't do that because
yes. Now,
bring me back, man.
All right, so here it is. This is a call out.
Right, because we're getting a fucking ovation.
You want to call out? This is a call out. Fuck you and fuck the boat you rode in on. These are the two motherfuckers right here. That's what we're doing, and that's the way it is. All you dark, badass guys. You know what? What makes us, as I stutter, what makes us the true badasses is the fact that in the darkest hour, which we embrace more than you just think you embrace it. We have fucking pity and empathy and sympathy.
Absorbing the pain.
We absorb the pain. And we don't distribute it. We absorb it, period, into ourselves.
Yep.
We don't ask you to absorb anything.
There's no equal exchange of energy.
No.
There.
We just absorb it
like
and we
black hole.
shit it out like yesterday's breakfast.
Outside of the galaxy into a vacuum of space within the universe that you can't even comprehend.
So it doesn't affect you. It's called a sacrifice. That is the fucking bottom line. And that's what truly makes us the two motherfucking badasses of the universe.
We are the filtration system and the exhaust of the existence that you live within.
And what we are getting at is the fact that when the shit hits the fan, being a fucking badass thug motherfucker means concession. And what you need to concede is that if there ain't no universe and there ain't no existence and there ain't no nothing, then where are you gonna be a fucking badass thug? You got nowhere to be.
If everyone's the same and equal on every plane of existence, then nobody is special on every plane of existence. And what are you going to do when you are not a you
or
but
special,
just a part of they?
That's what you can't handle. You can't handle. And the funny thing is you can't handle it because you know it's true. That you're nothing. You're just like every fucking buddy else. That's the difference.
And that's why we are calming down, cooling the jets, slowing down, allowing this fifth speed differential to exist so we can coddle you through without death and dying to a higher elevated self of evolution where you're in real space-time keeping up with the rest of the universe within the galaxy by connecting to the galactic intelligence through a stellar connection, because instead of just having you be the food source for the exhaust and filtration system of the solar system's lie of existence,
unacceptable behavior,
we are allowing for the understanding that you can transition forward and slowly by us realizing that the large percentage of you are still stuck in a reality within the matrix that is the first two equations where someone has to be right and someone has to be wrong, yet everyone has to be the same. So our only way to resolve that conflict is to allow, because we are behavioral specialists, and go after corrupted energy uses versus incorrect behavior that Monique and Steve are supposed to be taking care of, but mainly Monique, because Steve demonstrates the incorrect behavior. Monique actually finds those others that are demonstrating that same behavior that are not Steve, and gives them a chance to accept the incorrectness of it in exchange for the value that they generated from the misuse. We will then bring them within the fold to allow their behavior to end there and give them a purpose within the true correct behavior of existence. So the reward for them stopping their incorrect behavior and sacrificing any value that they generated from it to us is the ability to still exist and be a part of Team Trump. Whereas if they do get called out along the way, there's nothing we can do about that other than say, you changed your ways, and who are we to judge you? But you must own up to it, and if you have to make the phone call because you didn't survive it, well, oh well. But that's the Monique way. Our way is to, as I said, project the truth, show the true darkness and evil that the corrupted individual is misusing energy, that the truth of what that energy looks like to them, which scares the shit out of them.
Yeah, they don't even know what it is.
Destroys them. Because if they're pretending to be part of Satanism, or they're pretending to be anything that is dark that doesn't fall under Satanism, that is the other one, we truly reveal ourselves to them in a face-to-face. And that having to acknowledge that they are not even a part of us is enough for that. There's nowhere for them to go. They can't go crying back to Monique because she's not here to accept them. There's nowhere to run once you are confronted by us. And when we show you the truth of the darkness and the void and how truly evil it is for your corrupt use, what it would generate as the face of what you're allowing to exist by misusing the energy from those you're subjugating. That is enough to make you realize that you're not part of the darkness, that you really are a part of the light, but there's no light any longer for you to run to accept you in. So you just fade to black, become part of the background that this cooling period of the lightning strike is being viewed at two-dimensionally by a fifth-dimensional perception.
Which you deserve.
Exactly. Because you had an opportunity to ask for help based on your proclivity of dereliction of whatever your...
No, that was succinct.
Right.
I like that.
You know, and so you and I present in that manner, and once again getting back to the light, all of these pretenders within the darkness coming from the light need to either be absorbed or be brought back to the parameter of the light, and the light needs to come together as, if nothing else, minimally the duality mind that we run within the darkness to form quartet, to have full yin-yang, right? So that's where the light needs to get its act together in its hard for us to give a electromagnetic parameter for the energy that is produced by the star's radiation breakdown. It's process of fission that is going on, and the body of expansion of size that it is based on its brightness. It's hard for us to push back against that brightness so that it becomes contained in an electromagnetic field that is just you and I as darkness pushing it
wall,
right, and making it form a globe, you know, in just like a planet is formed. And that's the difference between you and I and any of the others, Monique, Steve, Warren, that are on the same level, because they are just light energies that use us as darkness so they can be whole.
Yeah.
Because they use us pushing back against them.
They need to be contained to operate.
Right. So we are the chaos of the darkness that allows a containment of the light to exist, to let three-dimensional linear reality be, to develop an evolved species to the point of acknowledgement and understanding of the third and fifth dimension, like we are conversing right now. And we produce that energy as technology. So for every problem a corrupt human is presenting through the misuse of energy, we are releasing a technology that solves that crisis problem. Green energy filtration, you know, the whole point is the they that was in control up to 2012, that was Steve, isn't the enemy that we're fighting, which was those between 2012 and 2016. And they are the actual feminist, granola crunching, tree hugging, multi-gendered, elite intelligentsia, Hollywood, famous, music, you know, that whole social art apparatus that we discussed last night. But art can't, or I discussed with Monique early today, but art can't exist without a structure of reality for it to be commentary of. Just like you can't redistribute something of value unless the value has been generated to be able to be redistributed. So an artist doesn't create reality, it comments on reality and tries to point out how it could be better, different, or something else. But they're not having the original thought.
Or even just commentate on it.
Right. Those that created so the doers created and the teachers were left behind, and that's the big mistake that we're in right now, is that the understanding that without the actual existence having been built, there is no commentary of
anything.
Right, and that's why the liberals are a mental illness, because they just believe this shit appeared out of nowhere, you know, to be redistributed. So that's what we're up against. So everything that when we were fighting they from 1984 all the way through the period of 2012, or more specifically to 2000, right, when everyone thought that the computers were going to crash and everything. So in that time frame, that was the old white man, the same, the white Jew of Hollywood who ran the money, you know, the whole economy scenario, Wall Street, all of that crap. Whereas we gave a megaphone to the micro groups that were being aggressed against, so that it seemed like they were a plurative majority, the feminists, the homosexuals, and all of that. So they started gaining a lot of traction and influencing a lot of our social, moral, superior justice outlook. And it was more of an experiment of technology to see if we could raise the volume of voices to more than what they were, not specifically what the message was.
Yeah, that didn't matter.
But the message is now coming back to bite us in the ass because they're the ones who between 2012 and 2016 are these radicals who threw Monique out on her ass, where you're not a true feminist because you're not a feminazi and you're not sided with these pro-aggressive gay groups who are then running Hollywood, who then believe that their opinion on how humanity should function with itself, when they're so detached from reality to begin with, is where we're at, because we were just working on...
They know better.
We were just working on the technology to prove that it worked and we were right, without giving Monique an opportunity to filter the message. And that's where
it was a distraction.
Right. Yeah, we were bored. We wanted to be schizophrenic.
Yeah, that's it right there. Boredom.
Yeah. So, and that's where we're at.
This is where you need a blast to come down, because now me and him are all jacked. I had his eyes closed. For a few minutes there, so I know he was thinking hard, because when his eyes closed, when he's talking, he's
there.
He's on a train, man. I love it.
I
actually got him there.
Yeah.
So I'm making progress myself. You see, man, small steps. I'm fallible. He's fallible. We won't admit it in an open forum.
Because we're assholes.
But we're fallible.
And that just means that we're open to change based on discourse that affects our beliefs, and not in a fragile, shaking way, in a understanding that at this juncture, that understanding the perception you're presenting is correct for the situation.
And we can be better
and admit
at
that.
the end of it, to admit it, and not be a badass thug, pseudo,
and just destroy and burn everything down, so that we can say how it was.
Yeah, I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to shoot you in the face. That's called pussy behavior, not badass behavior. That's what pussies do. You don't agree with me, so I'm going to shoot you in the face because I'm a badass.
Right.
That's right.
It's not because of the rules of the game and you violated something. It's because you ran out of information. And as we know, information is pain. So the more information you have, generally you make others run out of information before you do.
Or you just talk louder.
So then they just want to... No, I'm talking about us in reference, where why information is pain is because when you have more information than the other, they resort to shooting you in the face, which hurts. And I've not yet been the one to have to shoot another person in the face, unless I was working and they violated a rule of the game, which the reckoning was being shot in the face. But
which
it
was an employment stipulation.
Correct. Of us being our nature and doing our job.
Which is easy.
Yes, and fun.
It's too easy and too fun. Doesn't mean... I'm not even going to say it's not acceptable, because it is acceptable.
Yes, because we perform it within the universe, so it's got to... Anything that can happen is acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
It just is unknown to you if you don't understand it.
Yeah.
Because the universe will not let a unacceptable behavior exist. Because it wouldn't be in the universe if it can't exist.
That is a true statement.
So it's just
But
unknown
just because
to
you perform it doesn't mean you're off the hook.
Correct. Doesn't mean that the lifespan of the behavior isn't a measure of how incorrect it is.
That is true.
And that's why the type of star you are. So when we're doing the Great Flood weekend at Bernie's by carrying the solar system up to speed by folding it, we might drop off a portion of the 99% around a star whose lifespan might be detrimental to
Oh, you just say you know what I'm trying to fucking say.
I'm just reflecting your version of Planet 99 Nirvana.
I'm just trying to fucking tell you what
I can't help it if your version of Nirvana's a hellhole. I'm just
That's not my freaking problem.
I'm just dropping you off there along our way.
That's what you wanted, wasn't it?
Where we arrived at don't look nothing like this, man.
It's got nothing to do with you.
But I can guarantee you that when you get there, you'll be like, damn, yeah, this is what I thought it was gonna be.
But it's gonna be too fucking late.
But it might